Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to another special guest episode. Today, I'm excited to talk with my friend, Dr. Malathi Acharya, and we're going to be talking about part of her journey into integrative medicine and really finding her passion. Dr. Acharya, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mello. It's a pleasure to be here with you in the podcast. You are one of the people I admire, and I'm really glad to be having this conversation with you today.
Well, thank you for that. All right. So for people who don't know you, I'll let you introduce yourself. We talked a little bit about the integrated medicine, but tell us a little bit about your training and where in the country you are.
Absolutely. I'm Dr. Malathi Acharya. I'm the founder of Ayur Integrative Medicine. And Ayur is a holistic or an integrative medicine practice located in the Bay Area, Northern California. So I have 3 locations in the Bay Area, one in Pleasanton, Portola Valley, and Menlo Park. When I started my medical career, I started off as an internal medicine trained physician. So I worked as a hospitalist for about 10 years. Then I switched over to primary care. I'm board certified in internal medicine as well as hospice and palliative medicine. Then I did the fellowship in integrative medicine. And I'm also certified by their board. What we call it a diplomate of the board in the state of California. So once I finished my fellowship, I started my own practice.
Excellent. All right. Thank you for that. Yeah. We can tell right away that you are one of us who really enjoys education and learning. And there's many of us running around with a lot of certifications behind our names, right? Looking for something, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit here. Tell us a little bit. So you were in practice both as a hospitalist and a primary care physician, as an employed physician, and sounded like you started to find the experience more frustrating, more difficult. Tell us a little bit about what you were noticing at that time.
I have a different varied experience in my career as an internal medicine doctor. I've seen the hospital side of things, been there, patients who are really sick. It's really intense, managing them, stabilizing them, getting out of the hospital. Then I moved over to the primary care side. But, despite 16 years of this, I had the lack of sense of achievement. It's a lack of sense of achievement. So if you remember the Maslow's burnout inventory, and as an integrative physician, that's the definition I follow. It's emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and the lack of sense. I didn't realize this, but I kept having this recurring thought that, God, what have I done in my professional life? I am reaching milestone years with respect to my age, and what have I done? What have I done? But that was not true. That was actually not true, because I had this full perspective of a patient, a person's journey through health and illness. I've done a few extra things in, where I work. I still kept having this. But also what happened was 2 things happened when I transitioned as a primary care physician. Was I started realizing that the Western system was very medicine and disease oriented. So if we could not classify someone based on their symptoms into a certain disease category, we had nothing to offer for them. Right?
There's no cons for your fatigue. You don't have anemia or thyroid. Go on your way, right?
Correct. I would offer some perfunctory measures for them, but I wasn't convinced by it. I'm sure my patients weren't convinced by it, right? That was one. And then I had a panel of patients who would keep asking me. They never would like taking medication. And they would keep asking me, Doctor, what can we do naturally? What can we adjust our diet? And I would give them answers, but I was not satisfied with those answers. So a lot of these things made me explore. And I looked around and I found this fellowship in integrative medicine at the Andrew Wales Center in Arizona. It was an online fellowship. I applied not knowing the pandemic is going to be coming. I got accepted to start in fall of 2020, and boom, the pandemic hit us. Somehow I felt that I need to start the fellowship. It was one of the best decisions I made, because I didn't know what to expect going in. And I was like, let me try this. I really need a change, but I don't know what to do. Let me try.
Yeah.
The fellowship was amazing because in terms of knowledge, it bridged so many of my knowledge gaps. all those gaps that I was feeling as a primary care doctor, when I felt my hands were tied and I had nothing. So one by one, as we moved through the chapters, I acquired so much knowledge. And, you're right. We are so living about acquiring knowledge, right? And then the other magical thing that happened during the fellowship as I went through unit after unit was I would pick and put into practice one thing that I learned. I was learning
for yourself.
Now I'll be for myself, for my own life. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll be very honest. Some of them I had to put in practice and report back before the end of the unit. And that's how I started it.
Yeah.
And I remember that was a unit on prayer meditation where it said, there's a lot of evidence that it helps, quality of life, improve health outcome, mood and anxiety. So why don't you try a prayer meditation and report back, before the unit ended? So, I said, okay, fine. And that was the pandemic, right? There were so many things going on.
Yeah.
And one of the few things that really bothered me was my parents lived in India, thousands of miles away. And, I was worried about their health and safety. And the travel between the two countries had really shut down for a while, which I never, ever in my wildest dreams thought would happen.
Yeah.
So I was very worried, and my family and my safety, as physicians, worried about a lot of things. So I picked out this prayer that my mom would say in our native mother tongue Tamil. That I picked out that prayer, and the memories that evoked were, I felt like I was with my mom. I was listening to my mom, and all those memories would come for me. And despite the distance, I felt very connected to her. It was very powerful. It was very powerful, the things that evoked and, what it meant for me. Other than that, here's another thing. So morning time, the default mode network is really active in my brain, right? It was like, I don't know what my day is going to be. I don't know how many patients. I have 21 patients scheduled. I checked the schedule last night, 21 patients.
Churn and anxiety and thoughts.
I wonder how many seconds. So starting my day with this prayer would ground me. Those beautiful memories and everything else that came would kind of put a brake on my sympathetic system and activate my parasympathetic system to balance it. And it kind of gave me my presence. I focus and presence in the morning. So that it really helped me in more ways than one. So I got hooked on. So the second unit would be on nutrition. And then, I picked the 5 things that really resonated with me, and one by one started changing the diet in my house. Food things. Little by little, we made changes, bringing in whole grains, increasing the variety of vegetables, figuring out what dishes to make with it, handmade at home, things like that. And then the third, chapter on mind, body, yoga. I started learning yoga now and meditation. Now, these were things I consciously had stayed away. Where, there were a lot of wellness opportunities offered where I was working, but I consciously stayed away because they were at lunchtime or after work, and I would be exhausted to invest any extra time in those things. But when I started learning, I was intellectually stimulated. So I explored meditation, yoga, and I firsthand experienced all the benefits. And there was this process of change that started happening in me that first healed and nourished myself, and, started with nourishing the cells and giving it rest, and all the other mind-body measures followed to help manage my stress.
Yes.
And this is the mind-body connection is real. So when when I'm in this state where my parasympathetic system, is more activated, when I'm well nourished, I started paying attention to movement, exercise, movement. Then they would say, you have to spend time out in nature. So I started going out for walks rather than, do something at home. And then, I started buying potted plants and trying to grow them. I killed a lot of them. But hey, but sitting with a plant next to a plant, having a cup of coffee in my favorite chair, all of those things really nourish my body and soul, mind, body, and soul. So when I halfway through that fellowship, it was very clear to me that, I wanted to practice this type of medicine, and I wanted to do it in a different system where I had flexibility, freedom. And so it was very clear that I was going to leave and start my own practice.
Very good. I
So
love that. I love that idea, though, of really, really incorporating those things into your own life, because we don't always do that. We think, oh, no, I'm going to teach other people. I'm going to, I'm going to help other people with this, but not necessarily for me. And I love the way that you really dialed that in of when I engage my parasympathetic nervous system early in the morning in particular and start my day that way, rather than how many of us started in that sympathetic response of, being anxious, worried, trying to control the day and put it that worried energy, how that made such a transition for you. And these are not complicated ideas, right? They are simple ideas that we can very easily walk past as being too simple to matter. But for you, it made a huge difference.
a huge difference.
Mm. Yeah.
So even now, I still continue those prayers, right?
Mhm.
So when I go to bed in the night and I wake up in the morning, and the first thing, my mind and body know that the first, as soon as I freshen up and all that, the first thing I'll be listening to is the prayer. So it's that feeling of familiarity, right? So
Mhm.
in neuroscience, what triggers the relaxation response are two criteria for anything to trigger a relaxation response. It's repetition and
Mhm.
passive return. That's why mantras and repeating a word. So one is repetition. So when we go on a circuit of repetition,
Mhm.
then the body is tricked into believing that all is well, because it's not a new dangerous situation.
Mhm.
Okay, this is something that's familiar, comfortable. So nothing new. So you don't need your alarm bells to go off. So it's very protective, right? In that
Yeah.
primitive, animal eat animal. It is protective then. But now it's like, so that's why repetition. People,
Interesting.
children, when they, cry or this repetitive movements also, they're very calming because it invokes that circuit. So that circuit is activated. So, and then passive return. So first thing I'm going to do, I know I'm going to listen to these prayers and I'm going to feel better.
Mhm.
So it's that calming circuit that I have
Mhm.
it, switch on, and the comfort of knowing that that switch is going to be switched on first in the morning, and I can deal with anything else after that.
Oh, I love that. And there's something special about taking care of yourself, like not just that parasympathetic, sympathetic, right? But putting yourself literally first in your day. I take care of me first so that I can take care of other people, right? Everything sort of gets better with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've shared my day always goes better when I get out of bed, which I don't always want to do very early, and I go for a walk, outside before everybody else is awake. That's very calming to me. Even if I'm tired, it really creates a better day universally. And similarly for you, you've got now this prayer meditation that is something for you early on. Start the day off in the best place. And then
Absolutely.
your bandwidth is so much better.
So, I start yoga, right? Finding time for yoga in the morning was not a simple task, right?
Mhm.
Work starts at this time, but there is still the good things about the COVID pandemic, where for a brief period of time we were virtual. I had 2 days of virtual and 2 days I had to go in person, and I picked on those 2 virtual days because there's no commute to work.
Yeah.
And the children's school, the kids' school turned virtual, so I didn't have the school drop. So I just made use of that, and I somehow carved out 1 hour to do yoga online. Okay.
Wonderful.
So, and then, it was very hard. I had to figure out exactly what to do before I started yoga, and everything has to be ready. My lunch has to be packed.
Mhm.
I literally have to rush, change, and then take my bags and run out of the house eventually when in person started. But it's the mirror neurons in the brain, right? The very fact that I gave myself importance and carved out 1 hour of yoga.
Mhm.
The physical effects of yoga are amazing, right? The strengthening and the breathing and all that. But
Mhm.
I was, okay, it's these words may not convey the meaning, but I'm going to say that I was so happy with myself that I gave me 1 hour of time in the morning.
Yes.
I felt very that my compassion cup was so renewed that I can share a bit more with my patients.
Yes. Yes. Because
if my
we're
cup
so
had been
used to
empty,
pouring from an empty tank. And if we're not refilling the tank, then we're always depleted, and we can't rely on other people to fill our tank for us. That would be lovely. I would say that our healthcare systems, could do a much better job. Like we could have a long conversation about a lot of those things. But ultimately, it really comes down to us deciding I am important and I'm going to fill my tank. And these are the things that I do to take great care of me. And then my cup is full to share with others.
Very powerful. It's, one has to just try it, experience it, and you know the difference. Because no matter what, two people sitting and talking and listening doesn't convey that. But I can look back, I can think back now and see that was so powerful. I'm like, I did yoga today. So you know what? I can finish those 5 extra messages because my mind is focused and I'm going to finish that out.
Yes.
Finish all my clean up my in-basket before I go.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got the capacity for this because I'm taken care of. It's so important. And it's such counter, to the way that we were trained, right? The way that we were trained is we pour everything into everyone else. We leave very little for ourselves. And when we start to give ourselves back that nourishment with any of these activities, right? It improves not only things for ourselves, it also improves things for other people. We're serving our patients better, right? Because we have more bandwidth, but we're also modeling. Like there's so many benefits for taking care of ourselves. Why don't we spend more time talking about this, right? Rather than, and not just, let's cram in a yoga session at lunchtime when you don't, you're running behind and you've got 37 portal messages waiting. So that's very powerful. Tell us a little bit about the decision to leave your employed practice and start your own practice, because many people have questions about that. And I see many people who, will get an additional board certification, integrative medicine, obesity, a lot of different things. And it can be hard to incorporate those into kind of what's standard, employed medical practice. So tell us about that journey for you.
A lot of things with integrative medicine, barely the ICD codes are beginning to come in for the different things that we do. So in terms of reimbursements and everything, it's not a very promising situation. One of the most underlying philosophies of integrative medicine is the connection between the client or the patient, right? So that's very fundamental in enabling the healing process. And that sort of deep connection, means that the visits have to be unhurried. So while I can use snippets of what I learned, and I would use them, because as doctors, we can't hide what we learned. Once you learn it, it just goes everywhere. We spread it everywhere happily. So while I would use snippets of all those information and it helped, but I wasn't able to, I knew that I would not be able to use it in a very meaningful way in the system that I was practicing in.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that now we know that it's not only in medicine, but everywhere. If we don't practice what we learned, we are going to forget. I knew that if I wouldn't put it into any meaningful practice, I was going to forget what I learned.
Yes.
Okay. And
then you would have had a very expensive set of letters behind your name with nothing.
with no ability to practice and the knowledge that kind of. So when I put it together and analyzed it, the path was very clear to me what I needed to do. I believed in integrative medicine. Go back to the times where I was feeling, why are we so medicine oriented? Why are we disease oriented? So it offered me all those answers. So I was convinced from the, mind, body, and spirit that this was the right thing, and I wanted to do it, and I wanted to do it in my way. So it became very clear. Yes, I was. Was I taking a big risk? Yes, I was. I was walking away from a secure job and a paycheck. Yeah. I strongly believe then, and I strongly believe now, that this was a risk worth taking. This cause was a risk worth taking.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to take this to everybody, this sort of healing, right? I went through a healing process, and I wanted to take this to.
You wanted to bring it to other people, the same healing. Yeah.
Right. I've seen all perspectives, outpatient, inpatient, and medically also I could put together a lot of things. I did a medical acupuncture course, I certified in hypnosis. I really wanted to take this to the people. And I realized that as I was acquiring all this extra tools and all, I realized that I really like to do clinical medicine. It gives me a lot of joy to be there in that room with the patient and, the exchange that goes by. It gave me a lot of joy. It's just that I had to do it in a different box, so to speak,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a very true thing for many people, even when we might be in a place where we feel like we just need to quit, like we want to walk away, we want to, get the heck out of here, right, and not do medicine. When we feel more healed, we might connect back and say, no, I do truly love this, but I don't love it here in this way. And tell us a little bit about any mind drama that was going on for you as you were figuring out, I will leave this safe employed practice and I will start my own practice, right? Because there's a lot of decisions that need to go in that. How long did it take you to sort of get the nuts and bolts in place? What were kind of some of the worries that you had?
So let's just say pre-2020, I was a company person, right? I was someone who would,
a good employee, a lovely physician, did all the things.
I'll do everything to get better and better at my job. And I have a job, I have paycheck, and it's okay. I have family to focus on, blah, blah. Then I went through all this. What was surprisingly easy for me, once I was halfway through the fellowship, it was very easy for me to decide. There was apprehension though, because my God, after being 20 years of employed position, now I have to go out. There was apprehension and there was uncertainty. But the path to me was very clear. So I kept making those steps towards the path, despite the fear and uncertainties I had.
Yes. The fear and uncertainty were there. I think that's very important for people to hear. The fear and uncertainty are there. And we have a clear guide or a clear mission. And we don't take the fear and uncertainty as signs that we can't do what we want to do. We just bring those things with us.
Correct. I acknowledge that, it was trying to give me some messages and I acknowledged that. But I kept moving. My mission was decided and I just moved towards that. Starting one's own business is a whole different ballgame. Here I thought I was like, oh my God, I've done this. I technically, in terms of what an integrative physician needs, I know a lot. But then there's this whole different ballgame of starting a business, and the mind drama all happens in that realm for me, even now that I work on mindset. But this part of it was here, and that was because of how I took care of myself. That's all it is.
Yeah. I love that. And I think it's so important for people to hear, because I talk to a lot of people who, they have a dream, they have something that they feel called to do. It may not be possible kind of within their employed setting, but we have so much fear, so many of us, the difficulty of opening our own practice, or stepping sort of away from employed positions if that's what we want. And just to know that people who have done this, right? People who have started their own business, they walk away from their employment with fear and uncertainty, and they choose to do it anyway. For you, that came, you had healed, some things that needed to be healed in yourself. But I imagine there had also been a renewed sense of kind of confidence and self-trust, that went along with that. I know what to do to take care of people. I know that I am enough. I will walk into this path, right?
Yes. And a big part of integrative medicine is also spirituality. And in the integrative medicine realm, we describe spirituality as that connection to something bigger than oneself. So it's that meaning, purpose, and connection. And I found that in integrative medicine.
Lovely.
So that, that all, and then when that connection happens and there is that resonance, okay, this is my meaning and purpose, and this is going to help me achieve that. I'm going towards my goal. There is just that all the noise stops and it's just nice sound wave, music waves, or whatever. It's
For
music.
anyone
They're not.
who's listening to us talk, I just want to highlight, if you see us, in the YouTube version of this, you can see Dr. Malathi all lit up. You can see, how strongly you really resonate with, what it is that you do and what you felt called to do to serve patients. Yeah, lovely. So for someone who, is out there listening, perhaps they have done a fellowship or they're thinking about it. Perhaps they, have skills that they want to share with people, but they don't feel that they are able to do it. They're feeling a bit stuck where they are. What do you want them to know that you wish that you could have known back at that time, that pre-2022 version of yourself?
Big changes happen in small steps. Okay. And to have this clarity of thinking and a clear path in front of us, there's a lot of things that we need to do before that to get to this part. And when one is burnt out and depleted, mentally, physically, emotionally depleted, which is what burnout is, this clarity will not appear for us. So the starting point is, again, self-care, make sure to nourish yourself physically, food, nourishing food, all those principles, unprocessed, whole food, all of the nourishment. So it's nutrition, movement, paying attention to sleep, the basic fundamentals, mind body things, to counter that chronic stress. Oh, that's where everything starts. So when the physiological functions in our body start getting reset and our cell is repleted, renewed, our, we break the cycle of chronic stress. There's more relaxation. Things in our body start recovering.
Yeah,
that's when we become ready mentally, physically, emotionally to then delve deeper and see what is it that we want, what makes sense for us, and find that clarity. Clarity doesn't happen overnight. But if I had not gone through the path of fixing my physical problems for, physical state of health and then mental health and emotional health. If I had not taken those steps, I wouldn't have gotten this clarity. That is very clear.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen over. Although we may sit here and think that, oh my God, that person, they were able to figure out, I can't. You can figure out, but you have to take care of yourself first.
Yes. And I definitely agree with that. When we can choose to find healing, even if, and sometimes that might mean leaving a situation, right? But it might be staying in place and deciding to shift your focus to yourself, right? Take good care of yourself first. Now learn how to do that here so that your path becomes more clear. And for some people, that might be a journey like yours or mine, where we leave a place and move on to something else that calls to us. It is sometimes too staying in place, but coming to it from a very different perspective, a very healed perspective, a healed person working within a broken healthcare system, but taking really good care of themselves, being very clear on where their priorities and their boundaries are. It's such a huge difference for people.
And that would give that ultimate peace of mind and happiness and peace of mind and movement and purpose.
Yes, lovely. Well, this has been a really powerful look into your story. So I do want to really thank you for sharing all of this with us. If people are interested in learning more about you and more about your practice, where can people find you?
People can find me on my website. It's www.ayur.today. I'm also on social media. On Facebook, I go by my full name, Malathi Acharya. On LinkedIn and Instagram, I go by Dr. Malathi. So it's dr.malathi. And in Instagram, it's Dr. Malathi 2023. And, my practice is located in Northern California in the Bay Area.
Awesome. And we will have links to all of that in the show notes so people can follow you. They can reach out and learn more. And you've been speaking to physicians as well and sort of sharing some of this work with others. And so I hope that you'll continue to do that as well.
Yes, I plan to. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you as always to my listeners. Thank you for tuning in this week. And please reach out to Dr. Malathi if you have questions. And thank you as always for listening. And until next time, take care.
Thank you, Dr. Mello. It was wonderful to be here and chat with you on this topic that's very dear to my heart. So thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you.